Hello, I'm Jonasż Rewiński and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them and tell you everything you need to know. Vladimir Putin has started talking about Western taxpayers once again, as always with the kind of care that even his own pensioners do not usually receive. This time he advised Americans, Germans and other poorly oriented people to think about where their money is actually going because, and I quote, Russian drones have destroyed $2 billion worth of equipment in Ukraine.
Всего беспилотники, направленные по линии ОНФ, сожгли вражеской техники более чем на $2 миллиарда. В то же время системы РЭП правильно, пусть налогоплательщики западных стран услышат эти цифры и подумают, куда их правительство тратит их народные денежки. Вместо того, чтобы развивать свои системы здравоохранения, а там много проблем, мы знаем это хорошо, системы ЖКХ, те же самые, поднимать заработные платы и так далее.
Now, I know what you're thinking. He's not doing this because he cares. He's doing this because he's trying to be sneaky. He's got some sway over some governments, like perhaps Viktor Orban's Hungary, because of the energy deals, but most European leaders are immune to both his questionable charm and his unquestionable talent at blackmail. And so he's trying to sneak his way around these leaders and appeal to the common man instead. Look, there goes your tax money, up in flames. What he doesn't tell you is that his rather ugly Black Sea palace costs about $1 billion, and the money came obviously from the Russian taxpayer. Also, reportedly the palace in question developed a mold problem, so it had to be redecorated. Again, tax rubles at work. I won't even go into the cost of the war because you already know the story, right? So, to break that particular fake down in spectacular fashion, no. Your tax dollars and euros are not being wasted in Ukraine. Putin is lying to all of us because his own economy is dangerously close to going down the way of the Titanic, or perhaps the warship known as the Moskva. The truth is, we're making a major difference out there in Ukraine by funding their war effort. Think of it. We're sending aid and weapons. We're helping Ukrainians make it through this mess. We're saving lives, making friends, and investing in the future. One day, we might need Ukraine's help at a time of crisis. Who knows? This is what our tax money goes to. Imagine being the Russian taxpayer now. Terrible healthcare, no investments, and 1 million people that have already gone down the meat grinder. Well, I guess someone has to keep Putin happy. Am I wrong? If world politics was a video game, what skills would individual characters have? We've already seen how Putin uses sneak and berserk, because this is his frontline strategy nowadays, apparently. But what about others? Well, if you look at Robert Fico, the Prime Minister of Slovakia, the answer is simple. He's totally maxed out one skill, and that skill is block. As in, block every attempt to sanction Russia until Slovakia gets hefty compensation for the energy deal with Moscow. Forget European ideals and unity. This guy simply says, pay up, and then we can talk.
Aj dnes prichádzame a prechádzame skúškou zvrchovanosti a ochrany našich národno-štátnych záujmov. Ak odmietame podporiť ďalší sankčný balík proti Ruskej federácii, pokiaľ nebudeme poznať odpovede, kto a ako nás bude chrániť a kompenzovať pri škodách, ktoré budú Slovensku spôsobené ideologickým návrhom Európskej komisie zastaviť od 1. januára 2028 akékoľvek dodávky ruského plynu. Už sme si zvykli. Slovensko chce byť suverénne a svojprávne. A my si musíme odpovedať, či sme pripravení tento súboj zvládnuť. Ja som pripravený tento súboj zvládnuť. Drahé Slovenky, drahí Slováci, prechádzame a budeme prechádzať ťažkými skúškami.
Well, it seems that Slovakia traded its foreign policy for Russian gas subscriber status. Naturally, they couldn't keep it simple, so they added fake appeals for diplomacy, courtesy of Slovakia's foreign minister, who at the end of June said, "We should basically let bygones be bygones and get down to business with Moscow like the war never happened." You could say that at least they didn't block Ukraine's EU membership application, but Hungary is covering that particular spot anyway. Of course, it's good to see how Fico is now the outlier, joining war criminals at their Moscow parade back in May, and still dreaming of cheap Russian energy. But rewind the tape a bit, and most of Western Europe had the same problem. Even if they knew deep down that Putin was up to no good, they still had their hands tied with Gazprom contracts. What we do know is this: cheap Russian gas is one of the worst items of fake news you can get. This stuff is not cheap. Ukrainians pay for it with their blood, and whoever buys it pays for it with their sovereignty. Shame that some folks don't read the geopolitical small print. Hint: being blackmailed into submission at every opportunity is always part of the bargain. But then, buying fuel from a mafia state, what did you expect? Okay, time for the daily dose of Russian state propaganda. This time, Kremlin's favorite TV host and Bond villain cosplayer Vladimir Solovyov claims, with his usual charm, that he doesn't even care about conquering Europe. You see, apparently, it's all useless. Nothing of value to be taken. Not even the thought of laying siege to Paris excites him anymore. Because, you see, he doesn't speak Arabic.
Да нечего нам в этой Европе брать. Ну, реально нечего. Вот я каждый раз, когда европейцев смотрю, спрашиваю, вот скажите мне, европейцы, что у вас взять? Ну, у вас реально взять нечего, понимаете? Вы не представляете никакого интереса. Природных ресурсов у вас нет. Произведение искусства, мы и так ездили в выставки. Ну, брать что? Инфраструктура ваших городов разрушена по сравнению с нашими. У нас на совершенно другом уровне. Посмотрите, Москва сейчас лучший город мира. Что вы можете вот интересного предложить? Ради чего вас всех кормить, строить вам дороги, налаживать вам широкополосный интернет? Зачем? Вот вас взять для того, чтобы что? От вас требуется только одного. Не смейте оскорблять русских. И не представляете никакой угрозы. Все. Вас завоевывать, куда-то идти, что-то с вами делать. Кому вы нужны?
Solovyov confidently states that Moscow can already be considered the best city in the world, you see. Perhaps if we judge living standards exclusively by the number of Putin's portraits per square meter or the number of CCTV cameras per person, then maybe. But to be fair, it would be refreshing for Russians to realize they don't need to occupy any territory because they already have quite enough of it, thank you very much. That they consistently fail to do anything constructive with what they already have is another matter, but I don't believe this is ever going to happen. Somehow, Russia is still in the time capsule of 19th century colonialism, where a day with no land grab is a day wasted. Solovyov knows this, but he's trying to make Europe look worthless because he's still salty about his confiscated Italian mansion. In other words, it's called copium. Since we already know Russia is acting like that toxic ex who flooding your inbox with nasty messages like "I don't need you anymore" is somehow the pinnacle of Sigma maneuvering, let's also make another point. Some Western Europeans still think of Russia as this noble savage, this romantic brute with an irresistible air of danger about him. The kind of guy who's got the bruised and battered looks of a UFC champion, but will also take you on a private jet to see the Mariinsky Ballet in St. Petersburg. Well, I've got news for you. Your charming Russian date is not a wealthy man of mystery at all, but a convict on parole who comes to you because he's almost broke and will 100% ghost you. So, swipe left. Don't be fooled by this Russian culture shtick. All Moscow wants is friendship with benefits. Benefits for themselves, obviously. And with this, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.